Good evening, dear all our NTTP participants. Today is our ninth tag. We'll start learning about new topic today. Our topic today will be about peer observation. We'll have some new ideas about peer observation, and we will learn about feedback in the next session as well. Now let's start. By the end of our session today, the learning outcome for today will be: consider the purpose of peer observation. Why do we make a kind of peer observation? What are the advantages or benefits from doing such a kind of activities in our schools and our classes? Second point is understanding the skills involved in peer observation. What are the skills you need to do this kind of activities? In the next session, God willing, we will speak about the effective feedback methods and how can we give our colleagues a kind of useful and beneficial feedback through our observation. Consider what to focus on in observation. Begin a plan, a peer observation. Recognize the importance and value of peer observation in your own professional development. This is very important to develop yourself continually. You need to learn something new each time. In this time, we'll speak about peer observation. So let's start with what is peer observation and what is the purpose of it. Peer observation is an important tool in your professional development. So when you make a kind of peer observation with your colleagues in the school or class, you make a kind of professional development and you gain some more information. You can modify your technique on teaching and your style and giving your students new information and new experience. Observing lessons of others can help you to notice things you may not be aware of in your own classroom. When I am making a kind of observation to my friend in the school, I may notice that I am doing this activity or this part of the lesson in a wrong way. I can modify my way in teaching throughout observing my friend and taking his feedback or remarks through the style of teaching or his activities which he is doing in his class. If you are observed, it can provide a kind of mirroring to help you see your lesson more clearly, to confront any hidden assumptions. When you have some wrong sides, some mistakes, some defaults, you can modify them and give them some solutions by listening to the feedback of the observee, who would give you some important points to follow, some hints about how to improve your professional development in this part or area of teaching. Peer observation is a voluntary activity, so it's not obligatory to do it, but you do it as a voluntary work or optional work. You can't force someone to do it. As I'm the supervisor, I can't force my teacher to do observation with other teacher, but it's a kind of voluntary activity which can help them all to improve and develop themselves in teaching. If they don't want this kind of activity, it's okay. But I think it's very important to exchange experience through our teaching process, just as you can't force someone to do it. Peer observation can support the development by providing a non-threatening environment in which teachers are willing to look thoroughly at their own classroom teaching. I can, as I will see, record this kind of observation and rewatch the video and take notes about myself and my style in teaching and take notes about how to improve these faults and the areas of weakness in my style and teaching. So now we'll learn about what is peer observation in details. What is the purpose of peer observation? Can we force someone to do peer observation? We said you can't force someone to do this kind of voluntary activity. For how can peer observation support teacher development? We'll see right soon. Now, let's have a look at the types of peer observation. We have got some types like pop-in, unobserved observation, series of observation, recorded observation, and team teaching. These are 5 types of observation you can do with your friends in your school. Let's start with the first one, which is pop-in. This is a short from 10 to 20 minutes kind of observation in the class during the lesson. It can focus on a particular aspect of teaching or a particular focus of inquiry related to a particular group of students. So when I ask my friend to observe me in my class, ask him to observe my warming up, for example. How can I deal with low learners, low achiever learners? How I finish, for example, my lesson, or ask them to focus on the areas of weakness in my style of delivering the grammar, for example, or teaching the vocab. This is called a pop-in observation. It's for a particular purpose. This type of observation is good for looking at a particular stage or activity, as we said. Type 2 of observation is unobserved observation. Here is by chance or before or after the lesson, we are discussing with each other the points which we would observe, and I will take notes after the lesson. The teacher meets with the observer, here's the supervisor or your colleague in the school, and talk through what they want to do in the lesson. So I want to apply a new activity or use some kind of technology on my lesson. What do you think I can do this activity to make it the best use of this technology or this activity? We'll exchange some information or experience. I will observe this experience in my lesson, and then I will take notes after the lesson and see if I followed these instructions or piece of advice in my lesson or not. Then they teach the lesson without the observer. So there is no one to observe you on your lesson. You have some kind of dialogue or conversation with your friend before the lesson, and you apply what you listened from your colleague or friend in the lesson. They meet up with the observer after the lesson to discuss how it went. This is useful if the teacher is trying out new methods or ideas. How can I apply this activity? For example, think and when. This is a kind of activity. How can I do it in a new and a modern way? How can I apply bingo game? How can I use Kahoot as a website for making some kind of exercise to my students using the mobile phones? How can I deal with the problem of using mobile phones in our classes? After that, I will apply the advice which I received from my colleague, and then I will see the feedback with him after we discuss what I had done in my class. The third type is series of observation. As I would observe my friend or make him observe me for more than a time. For example, I would ask my supervisor to observe me 3 times in 1 week. For example, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. This observation takes place over a series of lessons. This allows the teacher to incorporate approaches discussed in feedback into sequence lessons. When I finish the first day, I ask my teacher or my supervisor to give me some feedback about my style in teaching. For example, how did I I dealt with the problem of teaching large classes, for example, and I will use the notes and remarks which I receive from my teacher or supervisor is the next day. In the third day, I will make a kind of combination between all the approaches I learned and all the advice I received from my supervisor. The fourth one is, if you please mute yourself, recorded observation. The teacher films or records all or part of the lesson. Later, the teacher watches and listens to the recording either alone or with colleagues and reflects on the lesson. So I record myself in the class or ask my friend to record me or my supervisor to record me. And after that, I watch to these records and take notes about my style or my teaching in my class and make a kind of list how to improve or develop myself in teaching. This is very important to reflect on my lesson. What are the good things I did in this lesson? What are the bad things? What are the weak or weakness points I want to improve in the next lessons and so on. The last one and the fifth type of observation is team teaching. We'll have a short video about this kind of observation. The teacher or the observer needs at different stages of the lesson. So we have got a team consists of more than a person to observe one teacher and take notes about some different areas in the lesson which is applying. This involves joint planning and
هذا المثال
process.
ما راح يلبس.
If you please mute yourself. Right, thanks. Post lesson reflection. So we have a kind of reflection over what we had already done in our lesson. Team teaching can be useful when two teachers have a similar area of interest and when teachers are interested in seeing how a colleague deals with a certain lesson activity. So I'm interested in my friend Ali, for example, in teaching some kind of new activities or teaching using technology. When I attended his lesson, I remarked some notes and benefited from them for my style in teaching. I gave him some hints about how to improve his style, and I used this hints for me to develop myself. So in these types, we have learned to answer these four questions. How many types do we have for peer observation? We had already talking about 5 types of observation. What are they? What said? Number 3, have you tried any of them before? I think most of you have tried some of this, especially when the supervisor come to you and supervise you and give you some hints. But I recommend you to try these kinds of observation with each other and listen to the reflection of the teacher and give them some kind of feedback. It will improve you greatly and your friend. Number 4, which one would you like to try and why? This would be our assignment, the first part of our assignment for today. I will listen or wait for your answer in this question, on our WhatsApp group. Which one of these types of peer observation would you like to try and why? For me, I think Team teaching would be very great because we don't have this kind of observation in our schools. When more than a teacher come to my lesson and take notes on different areas of teaching, they would give me a lot of useful and important remarks related to my teaching techniques and how can I modify them or develop myself. It would be great for me. And I'm waiting for you to give me your feedback about the type of observation would you like. Now it's time for us to watch a video about peer observation and take some notes about how can you observe your friends and get the best benefits from this. Let's listen.
What's another strategy? Area model. Because the lab school staff gets regular opportunities to participate in learning walks, both as participants and also as hosts, it really strengthens the culture of the school, helps build the shared vision, and allows a spirit of continuous learning. The lab school is located on a university campus in the College of Education, and we have a dual mission to serve the children at the school, which is currently kindergarten through grade 8, as well as pre-service teachers. Learning walks is a big part of our mission. It gives people who are teaching in our school, as well as people who are learning how to be teachers, the opportunity to watch other people teach, which you don't generally get because you're in your classroom teaching all the time. A learning walk is just a structured observation through a school. It's used for continuous growth and improvement. It is important that all teachers get to experience what it's like to observe in other teachers' classrooms and learn from others, as well as to have teachers come in and visit them and learn from them. I really like learning walk, especially as a fairly new teacher to this building. It's really helped me gain the perspective on what my students have experienced. It facilitates this, we're all in this together, what can we learn from each other? Some of the times the best things that are going on are happening in your own building, and you might miss them because you're doing your own thing too. And run at a rate of 11 feet per second. The learn walks follow a pretty specific protocol. It starts with an overview of the process and sets some parameters for participation. Thanks everyone for joining our learning walk team today. A focus is identified for the learning walks, and it can be a really broad focus like teaching and learning, or a pretty specific focus like classroom management. Today's learning walk focus is going to be on math. We're going to be looking at the power of mistakes and struggle, rich mathematical tasks, and assessment for a growth mindset. Learning walk participants' role is to observe what's happening and know that they're going to get an opportunity to talk about those things later, but to avoid making judgments and to reframe any kind of thinking along those lines into questions. Did you understand Miles' answer? Yes.
How would you know that you made a mistake?
Participants are encouraged to take notes and jot down what they observe, what they see, what they hear, and also what their questions are, things they wonder about. It gives us a snapshot of other teachers teaching. How many do I have across here? And it reminds us of, oh, they did an exit ticket. I keep forgetting to do those. I really need to pull those back in. You know, we catch those little things because we're always watching and trying to get new ideas. So the learning walk for teachers, I think, is really beneficial. I do carry a timer, and I rely on that timer to keep the learning walk moving. After going through all the observations, it's a time for reflection, and we generally start the reflection process by having a few broad reflection questions. Take a minute and look over the reflection questions. Reflection is probably the most valuable part of the learning walk. One of my favorite reflection questions is, does anyone want to start and share any questions, wonderings, surprises that you noted?
The gardeners, when they were done with the task, they partner up with the next person done, and I added that to my ideas that I might apply in my classroom. I thought that was really neat.
Anything that you'd recommend be changed?
I would always like to stay like 2 minutes longer.
The amount of time is always hard, but the benefit of going to 6 different classrooms in a short amount of time is that you get a glimpse of many classrooms instead of an extended observation of one, and now you know where you might want to go back and do some more observing in that specific classroom.
The this is the first learning walk that I've been on. It was clear after being on this today that it's a powerful tool because I could see what my colleagues were doing in grades behind me and then grades all the way up to middle school. So I can see where I fit in that picture.
What would the clock look like out there? And then here would be.
You know, I never get to step outside and go next door and see what my colleagues are doing. I'm always here. So I think that's really powerful.
It's amazing how when teachers go into classrooms, even if there are different levels and different content areas from what they teach, what they can learn from each other. And I've never had a learning walk where people didn't walk away with some ideas about something new that they saw, something they wanted to try, something that they were interested in.
So here they are naming it learning walks, and they are taking notes about everything in the class. You can exchange this experience with the math or science teacher, the Arabic teacher, for example. He can observe you and you can observe his style and give each other a kind of notes, remarks. You can reflect on your own teaching style and taking some advice from your friends. This would be very important for your development. Now let's speak in a quick about feedback and answer. Here is what are the benefits of peer observation. Teachers can exchange ideas about teaching. I can exchange these ideas with a math teacher, Arabic teacher, social studies teacher. I can learn from them how to teach this part of the lesson, how to deal with a kind of activity, how to organize my time, how to organize my students, how to use a kind of grouping with our school students, how to arrange my classroom desks, and so on. Although time consuming, peer observation can help teachers to learn from each other, as you said. Teacher can learn from their mistakes. I've done a lot of mistakes teaching this kind of information, especially with grammar. How can I learn from these mistakes and develop them to find out some kind of solution? To see how can my friend deal with this kind of problems and overcome them? Can help teachers to develop professionally. All the time you need to learn something new and to apply something. What are the advice you need? Teachers need to be relaxed about learning from both their good points and bad points. It's not a matter of challenging or a kind of humiliating you to give you some basis of advice to develop yourself while learning all the time till we die. It's okay. I can ask a students in my class to teach me how to deal with something new, like new platforms. I don't know, for example, how to use Telegram. I would ask a student to teach me how to use it. How can I use Telegram in teaching, for example? It's okay. I don't know how to use it. I can ask others to teach me. It's okay. Observation needs to be a positive experience. It's not to say all the mistakes. You can at first praise your friend's style, as we say, 2 stars and a wish. Give him 2 points of strength and 1 point of weakness. This weakness in the form of an advice. When planning an observation, consider what aspects of teaching you want a colleague to focus on. So when I ask my friend to observe me, I can ask him to observe my walking in the class, my movement in the class desks. How can I use my body language, for example? Can I use it in more beneficial way? What are the defaults I use in using this style? You can ask a teacher to focus on specific areas such as how I deal with problems, how I use questions, or how I introduce a new topic. These are specific areas. I want to improve myself in them. After the observation, as you see, share what happened with the teacher. Here we find out that they set and exchange the information and the hints related to how to improve themselves. They are taking it as a kind of amusement. I wish we can apply this in our schools in Egypt. Now let's move to reading a text and taking some remarks about it. I'll give you 2 minutes to read it and then we'll discuss it together. Let's start reading the text. Okay, let's work with a partner, discuss the phone question. What are the benefits of peer observation according to the text? Why do teachers become routinized to deal in the class like a robot? How can peer observation help? Do you feel you have become routinized in your teaching? Why? Do you agree or disagree with these ideas in this text? This is the second assignment I want you to answer on our Google Classroom. I'm waiting for your answers to these questions on the dialog box in our Google Classroom site. Now let's have a look over some hints about these questions to help you answer this. What are the benefits of peer observation according to the text? I'm waiting for other points. More than this, don't copy these points and write them down on the chat box and say, this is my opinion. I want you to give your own opinion. First, give us freedom to look at our teaching from different perspectives. So when I'm listening to my friends and other points of view, it's very important and fruitful to listen to them because I'm listening to different points of view. Number two, help us develop a more reflective approach. When I reflect on my own teaching, it's very important to see the weakness and the strength points in my teaching. I can modify my teaching style and work on the weakness points I did in this lesson, or this curriculum, or with this level of students. Help us to identify development goals. What are the goals I want to achieve in my developing way? After that, help us to increase understanding of what learners are doing and the kinds of interaction that are going on. Help us them to see their own classroom practice more clearly, especially when I record myself to observe what I have done. I can rewatch this again and again and take some more remarks. Second question, why do teachers become routinized? How can peer observation help? Peer observation can help teachers to see different ways of doing things and see their own classroom practice more clearly. When I gave you some hints about your performance, you should put them in consideration and try to take action to do these remarks. Do you feel you have become routinized in your teaching? I think a lot of us now are routinized because we have taught this curriculum more than 10 years up till now. So our Ministry of Education makes plans to change the curriculum each 4 years. I think it's a good thing to teach something new every 4 years, to learn some more information, to get some new experience, to modify your style of teaching and so on. The last question is, do you agree or disagree with the ideas in the text? Waiting for your answers. Now let's move to another point. As you will see, what is the difference? Look at this picture on the right side of the slide for about 6 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Tell what you can see. Now, in the chat box, you will write down what you have seen. Yes. So at first, we saw the word you. Now, look at it again for about 6 seconds. Now we'll count another 6 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Tell what you can see this time. Can you see anything different? If you can see it, discuss the two follow-up question in pairs. Now you can exchange information about what you saw in the first time and what changes in the second time. Why do some people see different things? What are the implications of this for classroom observation? That means when you observe your friend for the first time, you can give him some remarks about some certain points or specific points to modify. When you observe him again, you come with some experience that gives you some hints about how can you make a kind of remarks over his styling or teaching techniques. So it would differ between the two times. Now, what are the factors influencing what people observe? If you are observing or observing someone, what are the internal or external factors that affect the people observation? Let's start to speak about internal or personal factors. First, human tendency to judge what we see. So I'm coming to your class with a kind of judgmental way. Now I'm a judge to say what you are doing in a wrong way in your class. This is not accepted. Second point is interest or purpose. Am I interested in your style of teaching, or I'm coming to your class in purpose? This would affect my remarks or reflection or feedback on your teaching. The age is very important. Age gives confidence, gives experience. So I think the elder you are, the more experienced you are, and the more efficient your advice would be. Sometimes the gender is very important because, for example, it's not a kind of true, but I can assume this. When there are two women observing each other, the gender affected the way they give each other a kind of remark. Sometimes they don't want to receive any kind of advice from each other. I don't think this is between men. I think it's only related to women. I may be wrong, but this is my point of view. Let's move to the other point, mood or feeling at that time. So when I come to your class with happy feelings, pleased, this would affect my observation. On the other hand, when I am having some troubles or problems, I come to your class with this bad or not satisfied feelings. It would affect my observation. The next point is expectations. I'm expecting more active lesson from you than this. So I didn't expect to find out this is your style in teaching. This would be an influencing factor over my observation. Previous experience, as we said, this is, I think, related to age and the years of experience related to teaching. The last one in the internal or personal factors is relationship of observer and observee. We are friends. So I will give you this advice in a friendly way. Now, what about the external factors? Position in the class, how close they were to what happened. Sometimes your place in front of the board or moving around the class affects the way you are teaching and the way I'm observing you. I'm taking a certain place in the class which doesn't give me the opportunity to observe you well. This is external. It's due to the increasing number of students in my class or the lack of space in my class. This certainly would affect my observation. Size of the class, content of observation, when and where. I'm observing you in the last lesson or the last period of the day. There would be a lot of disturbance factors which affects my observation or the class teaching. Other competing sources of attraction in the context, like noise, as we said. Now, this is a kind of summarizing. Observation is a highly subjective process, so it depends on my point of view and how can I give you this point of view. It would influence my remarks, which I will give you. Remember also that when you are making notes, you are not noticing, so notes need to be selective. Don't give your own point of view related to the relation with your observing. Try to be subjective, not objective. The last point is active listening. How to be active in listening to your colleague after observing them. After you have observed your friend and taking some notes, after the lesson, you stay with your friend and listen to his remarks, his points of view related to his style of teaching. You should be a good listener, and we'll learn now in this short video how to be a good listener to your friend because it's very important in the next step, which is giving him a kind of feedback about his work and how to develop it. So, observation is not only about what you can see in the classroom, it will also involves listening to your colleagues after the lesson and helping them to reflect on aspects of the lesson. Give them the chance to speak about themselves, to reflect about the style and technique in their teaching, and to give you some points about why did they do this in the class to deliver this kind of information to students. Active listening skills on the part of the observer can encourage critical reflection by showing the teacher that they are interested in what the teacher is saying, to give them the impression that you are interested in what they are saying. Let's listen and watch how to be a good listener.
Oh, I don't know. I feel like my parents don't pay attention to me. It's like I'm not even there sometimes. They don't. Maybe I have to do something drastic, like dye my hair.
Sure, sounds like a great idea. A huge part about being a good friend or a romantic partner is learning to communicate well with the other person. Being a good listener is more than just allowing the other person to speak. You've got to be able to hear what the other person is saying in order to understand the meaning behind their words. There are a few things you can do to be a good listener. Pay attention. Don't be distracted by things happening around you. Don't get on your phone and start scrolling or texting. Don't judge what the other person tells you. Let them finish their thought without worrying that you will jump to conclusions. Don't spend time thinking about what you're going to say next. This is hard to do if you're feeling defensive, but it will really help if you listen. Show empathy. Empathy means that you show the other person that you feel what they feel. Don't offer solutions to a problem unless you're asked specifically. Most people just want support. They want to be heard. They don't actually want you to solve problems for them. Ask questions to be certain that you understand what the other person is saying, but don't interrupt. Wait until the person pauses. Be responsive. Nod your head or reflect back by saying something like, "You must be so excited," or "That's terrible." Being a good listener is an important skill and can help you to become good boyfriend or girlfriend material. People like to be heard, especially by those they care about. And if you need practice, and don't we all, try it out on your close friends and family members. Oh my gosh, Jim, what have you done to your hair? You really got to talk to me before you do such things. So, anyway, till next time, don't forget to visit me at amaze.org or go to my YouTube channel to watch more. Bye!
Right. So let's summarize how to be a good listener. Active listening skills on the part of the observer can encourage critical reflection by showing the teachers that they are interested in what the teacher is saying. For example, maintain eye contact with the speaker. Show you are engaged by making encouraging noises or nodding. Nod your head. It makes the speaker feel that you are listening carefully to him. Encourage the speaker to continue speaking. Go on, I'm listening, okay, and so on. Use reassuring body language. You can use your body language to give them the impression that you are listening well to them. Look interested and smile, as we have heard that people are happy to be listened. It's a kind of relief. Emphasize, show you are interested, concerned with the speaker is saying, with what the speaker is saying. This is very important. So it can make the speaker listen to your remarks after that or your feedback with interest as you listen to him. Ask a question for clarification if you don't understand some information, some sentences, you can't catch the idea in this sentence, you can ask the speaker to clarify it. Don't interrupt too much. When it's necessary, you can interrupt, but don't interrupt because it bothers people to interrupt them during speaking. Don't try and impose your own ideas or agenda. Give the speaker the chance to express himself. Now, this is the end of our tag today. We have spoken about two main points. We have spoken about the idea of how to observe your colleagues and how to be observed. We spoke about the types of peer observation. What are the benefits of this kind of activities? And finally, we spoke about how to be a good listener. Next time, God willing, we will speak about how to give feedback and how would be our feedback beneficial. Till we meet again next week, see you all in a good health. Thanks and goodbye.